Alright, let's get started with a Nidalee game. If I'm going to complete this ridiculous challenge that I've set for myself, I'm going to need a champion pool for each role. Nidalee is honestly one of the worst champions to pick for this, just because she is a more complex champion. But she was a champion that seemed interesting to me, so I wanted to at least give it a try. Whether or not I stick with it remains to be seen. Probably not, to be honest. But end up picking up First Blood here with off some invade shenanigans. So the game plan for this game is going to be pathing top to bot. Not going to go over the whole game, just kind of the cliff notes of it. But yeah, I've got a Dr. Mundo in the top lane versus a Nasus, so there's not really a whole lot I can do to influence that. Or it's not really going to be a lane that's going to be optimal to path to, whereas, you know, I've got a Nautilus in the bot lane. It's going to be a lot better setup for ganks, where I'm a champion that lacks CC and is really just damage threat with a bit of utility. So, when picking up a new champion, what I'm looking for, first off, is how they implement certain fundamentals. First one here being farming, which does need work. I'm going to speed through this part just where it is, you know, a bit slow and boring. At least until I get to here. So I do see that Viego is not on his Raptors yet, so that tells me that he started top lane. I am kind of late crossing the mid lane at 235, that's a pretty slow speed. But where I had that ward, I decided to go and contest him on the red buff. Managed to smite steal it. And here, I end up making a mistake. I should, well, if I look at the map, I've got priority and a health advantage in mid lane. I've got, well, the waves are starting to bounce back in either lane, but they are still pushed in currently. So one option that I have is potentially to continue, you know, staying in here and continue messing with this guy, because I have a health advantage and red buff, whereas he's only sitting on the blue buff, which is a lot weaker. The other thing is we're equal in level, and he only has his one camp left, so there's no way of him hitting level 4. So the second option that I have is going through, potentially through Tribe Rush, and seeing if I can influence the bot lane, which is the plan originally anyway. Instead, I end up probably making the worst choice out of all of them, which is going back to my camps, which is kind of just autopilot on my part. Even worse than that, I'm being kind of indecisive about it. I end up going and checking the Raptors, which I should have known were down because I can see his CS after just running into him. But I also don't ping my laners to let them know that, you know, that's kind of the obvious play that he would have, is to go and try and influence bot lane. And yeah, the only alternative is that he ends up recalling, which doesn't really make sense. So yeah, he's able to go for the gank. Nautilus ends up dying. Tristana gets chunked out, and I'm kind of too late to it to do anything. So with the junglers that I'm more used to, it's kind of more of a reasonable thing to full clear. Where I went for that invade, I think that does actually change the script for them as well, because I had a similar thing happen with a Briar game where I was on blue side and went for a Raptor start into a invade onto the blue versus a Jarvan who had started top side, and I kind of ran into the same situation where I went back to my camps with the intention of clearing them to make sure he couldn't get anything back in terms of, you know, jungle farm. But since he, you know, did the 4 camps, then realized that his blue was gone, he ended up going straight for a bot gank, influencing that before I could get to it, and similar situation to what we're in now. The other thing that is kind of an issue is map awareness with Nidalee, where I'm kind of focusing on a lot more of the micro, and I'll show another example of that. So, first problem here is that I'm pushing the Scuttle Crab up towards my weak side. And the other thing is that if I look at the mini-map during this time, I can actually see the Nasus coming down to that. So, I think the correct thing here would have been to push the Scuttle Crab down towards my Sylas, who was winning lane and had priority. Fiddlesticks wasn't even in lane, so it would have been a lot safer. The other thing that I'm looking at is the spacing and tethering, like whether this could have been done better mechanically. You know, obviously missing the spear on the Scuttle Crab, that definitely could have been improved mechanically. But one of the questions I wanted answered with this game was whether or not I was able to interact with the Nasus, partially with the tenacity and slow resist shard that I took this game. It was versus an Ashe and a Nasus, so a lot of slows, and I end up itemizing into Boots of Swiftness. I am also going for the Liandry's early. I think it is a bit out of date as a build at this point. I wasn't aware of that at the time, and wasn't really a huge fan of it compared to the Lichbane, but I thought it would give me a little bit more tankiness versus, you know, some of the burst that might be coming out from this team. But one of the questions I wanted to settle here was whether how much of a difference having that rune and the Boots of Swiftness made when interacting with the Nasus, which it turns out it's quite a bit different than the difference it makes on Sona, which is a champion I'm a lot more familiar with. And the reason for that is the difference in tools that the two champions have to maintain neutral spacing. In Nidalee's case, the tools that she has are her passive, giving you the 10% movement speed through bushes, which does get negated by the slows, and also Pounce, which, just using it in an open area like I do here, doesn't actually create enough distance to be meaningful in the matchup. If I was able to use it over a wall, then that would, the terrain scaling would be something that Nasus is not able to match. And that's something that I've been noticing that I need to get more in the habit of doing if I'm continuing to play Nidalee, is just being aware of what my escape route is, and you know, potentially using Pounce to not just create distance, but also put terrain between myself and an enemy that can't necessarily match. There's a couple instances versus a Xin Zhao, or a couple of different Xin Zhao, that I ran into a similar issue. So here, my flash actually just came off cooldown, so I probably wasn't thinking of using it. One thing that I could potentially look to do here is maybe flash the wall, and if I get a good angle there, maybe I can survive long enough to get over this using the Pounce. I probably don't have the timing to go for that here, but it might have been a better way to go about it than how I played it, which is just, you know, trading flash with the Nasus and still dying. Sylas is able to show up, and I think we do manage to clean up here, but yeah, obviously this wasn't really contingent on anything I did. This was just kind of luck, basically. But yeah, those would give me the main things that I want to focus on if I end up continuing with playing Nidalee, is farming speed, map awareness, so yeah, farming well, being able to keep an eye on the minimap, which has been a struggle, like I say, because she's a more mechanically complex champion than average, and also just keeping my game plan in mind and making sure that I'm actually playing towards it rather than kind of just autopiloting into well, full clearing and not having an influence on the map. So yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Might do a few more Nidalee games before deciding whether or not to swap to another champ. and I will keep going for updates as they come. Anyway, that's pretty much it. See ya.